UFC Freedom 250 taking place this Sunday. Finally, after about a year, it is taking place on the White House lawn. Tons of bitching and moaning leading up to this. Also a ton of ball licking and glazing. Terrible takes from pretty much every side. I'm excited for this to be over. But what I want to talk about is something the UFC hasn't been really talking about at all leading up to this event, and that is the fights. So let's get to it. The main event is between Ilia Topuria and Justin Gaethje, a lightweight title unification match, which really it doesn't need to be at all. I mean, if we're throwing titles around, as the UFC usually does, Ilia should also have the BMF title, and Justin should be unifying the lightweight championship while trying to regain the BMF title, right? Ilia Topuria is coming in as a huge favorite against Justin Gaethje. I'm not too surprised given how Topuria has looked and the fact that he's younger at 29 years old and Justin is 37. Justin is the taller man at 5'11 compared to Topuria at 5'7, but there is only a 1-inch reach differential in Gaethje's favor. I'm picking Topuria in this fight. One thing I'll be watching is how he deals with or counters Justin's single collar tie, because Justin uses that all the time. He'll break his opponent's posture, and then he'll throw combinations from there. Sometimes it's like an uppercut to start, but mostly it's like something from his right hand, and then he'll just throw combos from there. Of course, I'll be watching how both fighters use leg kicks and defend against them, especially Gaethje, who throws them from very close range. That'll be particularly interesting against Topuria, who has more of a traditional boxing stance, although he is pretty good at like shifting his weight back and forth. Gaethje also threw like a really wild head kick from the clinch against Fiziev. Now, I don't think that specific technique will play much of a factor in this fight, but it just kind of shows you how comfortable yet chaotic Gaethje is at close range. I find that Ilia does a pretty good job of slipping shots and staying behind his shoulder, but he does get hit on his right side. I don't want to say too frequently, but it is noticeable with hooks and sometimes kicks. Basically shots that come around his shoulders. Another thing, and this is largely dependent on how the fight unfolds, is their conditioning. I'm curious to see how it holds up. This fight could be fought at a very high pace and get ugly really fast. Add in the element of fighting outside with the canvas possibly becoming slippery, especially with the UFC's 5,000 logos on the mat. It might get sloppy out there. They're also in the main event, so the canvas will likely be more slippery by that point after an entire night of fights with blood, sweat, water. I'm kind of wondering if they're going to swap out the canvas before the main event. Lastly, a lot of people are talking about the pressure of fighting on this card. Maybe it weighs more heavily on Gaethje with the desire to impress the dignitaries around him, the American fan base on his back, a championship title on the line. But Gaethje thrives under pressure, I think. He likes being the underdog, and maybe that X factor is a good thing for him. I believe Ilia Topuria predicted a first-round knockout. I'm thinking it happens in the second or the third round. So I think this is a very interesting and exciting fight for what it's worth, even though I think Arman should be in this spot instead, but nonetheless, it's a good fight. Co-main event matchup, we see Poatan moving up to heavyweight. We have near even odds, and I'm curious to see how the line moves the closer we get to the fight. This is a 5-rounder. The interim heavyweight title is on the line. Gane is the younger fighter here by 2 years and has a slight reach advantage at 81 inches, Poatan at 79. They also have very similar records. Gane is the natural heavyweight here, and he's very mobile. Tons of lateral movement on the outside, lots of kicks, attacking to the body, keeps his distance fairly well, very athletic. He can retreat in straight lines at times, and he keeps his hands pretty low, so I'm thinking in general Poatan is likely looking to take away as much space from Gane as possible. Cage cut and get Gane back behind that black line and catch him while he's circling out, or in an exchange when the pressure is on. Although I certainly think Poatan can get the knockout in this fight, I'm leaning more towards Gane getting the victory. He's simply the more dynamic fighter, and especially at heavyweight, these things matter. I think it'll take more than a one-hitter quitter to get Gane out of there, and over the course of 5 rounds, we'll see Gane build more and more momentum. I'm curious to see if Gane tries for takedowns or what they look like when they tie up in the clinch or against the cage. What will that look like, and then who lands the better shots as they disengage from the clinch? I think those moments are going to be pivotal. I could see Gane getting a decision win, but for the sake of America and freedom, I do hope it ends inside the distance. Give me Gane in the 3rd round to pile up some damage and land something devastating at range. But it's heavyweight, so the odds make sense. Oh, and by the way, I'm looking most forward to this fight simply because of Poatan's walkout, which is top 3 best walkouts ever in the history of this sport, in my opinion. Sepultura playing at the White House? That's cold. Sean O'Malley taking on Eamon Zahabi, and holy shit, speaking of odds, look at this. O'Malley is a substantial favorite, and I think that's a little surprising, considering Zahabi is pretty tough. I could see a world where Zahabi gets a decision. What if O'Malley slips and hurts his little ankles out there in the questionable conditions of the White House lawn? In all seriousness, it does become a little less surprising, the odds, the more you break it down. O'Malley has the name and the rank, he's much younger, taller, has a reach advantage. Also, statistically speaking, every time Zahabi lands a strike, he usually absorbs one as well. And O'Malley, in general, is better at evading what's coming back at him. I think this fight likely goes to a decision, and O'Malley takes it, but maybe Zahabi can make this an ugly fight. The Zahabi brothers, I'm sure, can craft up a decent game plan, and I just heard GSP's in the corner, so that's gotta count for something. Other than that, I have no cute insights on this fight. So O'Malley by decision, but like I said earlier, in honor of America, hopefully this ends quickly. Next up, we have Donald Trump's favorite fighter, Derek Lewis, taking on Josh Hockett, who will inevitably replace Derek Lewis as Trump's favorite fighter on Sunday night. Derek Lewis, the much older fighter at 41, and Josh is 13 years younger at 28. But it's heavyweight, guys. Josh is allegedly only a couple inches shorter, but his reach is 5 inches shorter. And no surprise here, Josh is a moderate favorite. I didn't think too much about this matchup. We know Mr. Black Beast has power. He has a ton of knockouts, this is the heavyweight division, and we saw Josh get punched a lot in the face by Curtis Blades. So taking a bet on Derek Lewis by knockout doesn't seem crazy. But when I heard this matchup, I thought about DC having zero trouble getting Derek to the mat. And I know the credentials aren't the same, but still it's close enough for this kind of matchup. I think Lewis will throw some big kicks, maybe land some punches, but I think Josh gets to a leg or something, drags Mr. Black Beast to the mat, and beats him up for a bit, and then submits him. I'm just not sure if I should pick an arm triangle or a rear naked choke. Rear naked choke may be a little too homoerotic sounding for all the new viewers to handle, but an arm triangle looks a little like an awkward hug. I'm gonna go with the tried and true rear naked choke in the first round, but no matter what, I think this ends inside the distance as Josh Hockett continues to slice through the abysmal heavyweight division. Next, we have Michael Chandler, who wants to be Donald Trump's favorite fighter, but he's not. And he wants to fight Conor McGregor, but he's not. Instead, he's taking on Mauricio Hufi, who is kind of like Conor McGregor, I suppose. No surprise here, Hufi is a huge favorite. Again, we have a large age gap. Chandler 40, Hufi 29. Hufi is taller with a decent reach advantage over him, but that's no surprise, it's a Chandler fight. What can I say about this fight? As long as Hufi doesn't get wrestle-fucked for 3 rounds and doesn't get kicked in the face, I don't really see how he loses this fight. I was reading an article from Danny Segura on MMA Junkie saying that Hufi doesn't train with the fighting nerds and that he has a gym and a camp built around him to focus 100% on him, and I like that. And I think that'll make him better. It's kind of like the big-time boxers used to do back in the day. Okay, for a prediction, I think this fight has shades of McGregor versus Chad Mendes, except like a Temu bargain bin version of this. So I'm just gonna go for like a round 2 TKO for Hufi. But it's possible Michael Chandler increased his dose of American-made Freedom supplements and he survives all 3 rounds. But I don't think so. I think Hufi takes it. Only a couple fights left, and the next one includes Donald Trump's favorite fighter, Bo Nickel. An interesting piece of info is that both these guys are southpaws. And you know what happened the last time Bo fought a southpaw? Bo is a moderate favorite at -330 and Dacus at +270 at the time of this recording. Bo's record is 8-1, Dacus with much more experience at 17-4, and he's on his second stint in the UFC. Dacus a couple inches taller and the reach is identical. Bo is 3 years younger at 30 years old. I kinda like Dacus in this fight. I mean, look, Bo Nickel probably controls this fight with mat returns and takedowns and wins the decision. He's the better and more credentialed athlete with far superior wrestling. His striking has come along nicely, but I just think he still needs more experience. This isn't a bad matchup to get that. He looked good against Adolfo Vieira, but that isn't saying much because Vieira did nothing in that fight. But I think Dacus can make this an ugly fight. I think he can eat space and land punches on the feet, especially if he throws in combinations and stays in Bo's face. And I think he'll probably take punches in return, but I think he'll be able to take them. I don't think Bo's defensive striking and footwork is good enough just yet to nullify Dawkins. So I think when the going gets tough, he'll be looking to shoot for takedowns. And sure, Dawkins isn't going to have the best takedown defense, and he'll probably get outpositioned in the scrambles, but he is a serious submission threat. And then we might as well bring up the X factor again of pressure. He doesn't want to look bad in front of his great and powerful golfing buddy, so will he try some riskier stuff that may not benefit him? Maybe. He kind of did it in the RDR fight. That didn't really favor him. In this fight, it would very much benefit Bo to wrestle. Get a dominant position, do damage, keep wrestling. And I think this is one of the best matchups on the card. It makes sense. I know it's a risky and not really an intelligent pick, but I think I'll have a little fun with this and pick Dawkins for an upset inside the distance. I think he can hurt Bo on the feet, and I think he can snatch a neck. Round 2 submission for Dawkins. Otherwise, I think Bo Nickal just takes a decision. And that brings us to the first fight of the White House card, Diego Lopez versus Steve Garcia. I can see why they put this fight on an event like this, because at least conceptually, this should be awesome. Garcia is only a slight underdog here. He's 3 years older, a little taller, and has a 2.5-inch reach advantage, I guess. Garcia has a record of 19-5 and Lopez 27-8. Also, Southpaw versus Orthodox matchup with Garcia being the Southpaw. That always makes things interesting. Garcia is a goofy-shaped dude, and pretty big for a featherweight. He's got these, they look like freakishly long limbs, but I don't think they are. They just look like it. He's a little awkward, a lot of movement and feints, a very active lead hand, and he loves to throw these front kicks. I gotta say, I'm a fan of his style. I think he'll present some issues with his volume and his movement alone, but you also have to remember that Lopez, even despite his losses, have been against the elite. And at this point, we know he can't cage cut, but I think that's going to be less of an issue in this fight, as Garcia is a little more willing to engage. Garcia operates at range pretty well, but he does get hit with counters. His striking differential up to this point is pretty crazy, at 5.39 significant strikes landed per minute and only 2.12 absorbed per minute. But we do have to keep in mind that he has had much lower average fight time, and his level of competition, it's much lower. Still, I think it's pretty impressive nonetheless. I think Diego's toughness, his experience, and his power are going to play a big factor in this fight. I don't know about wrestling and grappling. I know Lopez is working on his grappling and his wrestling here. I'm sure it's better on paper. But again, Garcia's a little funky. So I feel like this might just be a banger that goes to decision, and then damage will be the deciding factor on the cards in favor of Lopez. But man, I like this fight. I think it's a great way to start the night. And that wraps up my picks for this historic night of fights that hopefully does not include Kid Rock, taking place on Sunday. Can't wait for this to be over so we can look forward to Conor McGregor's fake return. Yay! Thank you for watching. I appreciate you liking and subscribing. Follow me on Verdict for my final picks. Hit me up on X for all my hot takes, and Instagram is a good spot to see some dumb content I post. It's all a good time. As for now, I gotta get to another galaxy. Matlock, out.